everybody, it's EK from EK Gorman Designs, and I am coming in because it is the first day of spring, and Elizabeth Craft Designs is having a March Spring Flowers event in which a bunch of different designers have come up with a bunch of different floral themed projects, and I am doing something a little different for me today. I am creating a mixed media floral project and using some handmade paper flowers from Susan's Garden Shasta Daisy flower collection and a upcycled metal frame. I don't know. Somebody gave it to me. I thought the pattern on it was great. I thought it would turn into something great. So I'm upcycling an old something and turning it into something else. And an old paintbrush, which actually isn't that old, but it's a cheap paintbrush. And I'm willing to sacrifice it to a piece of art. Here I am creating creating one more daisy for my paintbrush because I wanted to show you how I create the daisy. There are people out there far more superior to me in the daisy paper flower making, specifically Susan, who creates these designs and designs them. But here's how I use it. I use the metal tools and for the daisy, create small seams in them with the leaf tool, and then I cup it, and then I use another one of the tools to shape all the flower petals, and I glue them together with some Kids' Choice glue. And then I take the little star insert pieces and I put them back on the molding pad. And then I'm going to use my Copic marker and just add a little bit of variation of color right in the center, like a dot, like it's a dot right in there. And then using the smallest metal ball tool, I'm going to cup each little flower so that they have form, that they're not a flat piece of paper. Using the Kids' Choice glue that Elizabeth Craft Designs sells, I adhere each of the little tiny yellow pieces into my Shasta Daisy. And I love this glue because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room time, but when it dries clear and it dries firm. For the leaves of the daisy, I took my Copic markers and colored both sides of the soft finish cardstock. So that way, when it turns or if there's a little bit of movement to it, it's green all the way through. And then I created a seam with a really dark and just kind of highlighted down the leaf because a leaf, let's be honest, isn't just one color. Using the leaf pad, I created a firm line with the leaf tool. And then using my tweezers helped shape and twist the leaf so it actually had some movement that made it look realistic. Here again is the paintbrush and the tin frame I'm upcycling. And I'm putting down I know it's a nasty looking pad, but I'm putting down the pad because it protects my surface from my paint. I'm not crazy, it's funny, I say I'm not crazy about the color of the frame, and I end up making it this greenish color that's not that far from the original one. But I didn't want to completely use somebody else's coloring. I wanted to recreate it myself. So, and I did lighten it. There's no black in it now, but I took the gesso and I painted a nice thin coat of gesso over the entire frame, and then a thin coat of gesso onto the paintbrush. You'll notice I don't take the paint all the way up to the top of the paintbrush because I wanted their acrylic bristles to just kind of maintain some of their natural grunginess. So if you look down into the paintbrush, you still see it and it's not like painted white. But I did want to layer some gesso over the paintbrush so I could change the color and mask what was originally underneath. I didn't want it to be clearly a wood handle, clearly a metal encasing, clearly acrylic bristles. I pulled out some Prima metallic paint, and it's this kind of emeraldy teal color, but it moves with light. So depending on how the light moves, you get a different color. And then I pulled out some of the Opal Magic. These are really interesting. They have two-tone quality depending on what you paint them with. What you will notice is I'm not cleaning my paintbrush. I'm actually trying to get these colors to blend slightly together, and by having a dirty paintbrush, I managed to maintain the ability to blend these colors. I wanted a nice deep dark center and then to kind of fade out lighter as I went. I then took the Aqua-Rose and added hints of light pink, which really greened up. Don't ask, it works. I'm also going to paint the entire paintbrush this Aqua-Rose, but notice again, my paintbrush is still dirty. And in having the dirty paintbrush, I'm able to lay down hints of that emerald and that aqua or that green color within the paintbrush. I'm using this glue here because it actually adheres to non-porous surfaces, and the handle and the frame are both non-porous. And I'm going to lock the paintbrush handle kind of in place with this heavy gel. I'm actually pushing just a bit of this heavy bodied gel under the paintbrush and then letting it ooze out on the sides because I want to create some more texture working the way up onto the paintbrush. And I'm globbing in lots of the heavy gel. The great thing about the gel is it will dry clear and you'll be able to see the paint under it, except for you don't. If there were spots where the gel, I don't mask over the gel, you can, it dries clear. I'm dropping art stones onto my frame to help build up the texture into the frame. And then I'm going to take the mini art stones and fill in kind of the crevices around the larger stones. And just, I keep pushing down just slightly to get it to stick into the gel. And once it dries, everything locks in. I don't have to worry about this falling apart, you know, a week from now. The gel really does its job and holds things nicely. The second way that I ensure that all my little art stones stick is that I'm going to go ahead and layer a layer of paint on top of all the art stones. And that really, really will help lock the stones down. I'm heat setting everything just to kind of help smooth the process along, and in the heat setting, I loved it. My paintbrush bubbled, creating some texture within the handle of the paintbrush. I thought it was fantastic. I pulled back out the Aqua-Rose Prima Opal Magic paint and layered over the art stones and the now dry heavy-bodied gel a layer of this Opal Magic color. And again, it has movements in it. It has reflective qualities in it that keeps it from being a flat coat of paint. What I really wanted was to keep everything from getting flat. I wanted almost a magic about the whole back pinning here. Spring is magical in itself. It's like you look outside one day and it's dreary and gross and how can I even go on because it's nasty? And then the next day, something green pops from the ground. And then the day after that, the whole world goes from brown to lovely shades of pale green and then bright green, and spring is magical. There's no other way to say it. And I wanted that same feeling about the canvas and the brush. Something just ethereal and special and fantastical and just the essence of magic. I kept the flowers incredibly realistic looking because the flowers are the flower focus. They aren't magical. They are flowers. Well, flowers, I guess, are magical in their own right. But I figured I needed a little bit more sparkle and I wanted to break up some of that Aqua-Rose section. So I pulled out some Copper Rose Silk Microfine glitter and added it into some of that wet paint. And it sticked perfectly. It was exactly what I wanted. And then I realized because of the stark whiteness of the daisies, I needed to reintroduce just a smidgen of white back into the canvas and the brush. So I pulled back out my gesso and just kind of dry brushed some white into the area of the canvas, creating just kind of that streaky. And the great thing about the gesso is gesso's flat. So where the underpinning paint is got that magical reflective quality, the gesso's flat. So now I've got a juxtaposition between the two that I think really works nicely. And it kept the flowers from looking too stark white, or at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but being as I'm the person who painted it, I like to think I'm right. I wanted to reintroduce some of that glitter on the canvas itself, that tin frame canvas, so I pulled back out the heavy bodied gel, and I would drop a little heavy bodied gel into the canvas and then brush on some more of that silk microfine glitter. And it worked perfectly, I think, just to give hints and streaks of the glitter without it being overbearing and overpowering what I was trying to do. And these last two spots, I didn't even open the jar of glitter. I just used the glitter that was left over on my brush. Now it was time to put the daisies onto the brush, and I wanted it to look almost like you were running the brush down and out was coming flowers. Now, I don't think I got quite there because I covered so much of I covered all of the bristles with the flowers, but I do love how this came out. I will tell you, when it's just the flowers on here, it doesn't work. Like right now, this doesn't work. But I had a whole bunch of the little sunflower cardstock little inserts that go in the middle of it. And I was like, okay, let me reintroduce a little bit more yellow throughout the canvas by dropping in some of these little buds. They're not even buds because it's really the pollen of the daisy. But by dropping a handful of these little yellow star pieces throughout the project, suddenly that yellow made sense and everything started tying together and it was perfect for me. I adored. And thank goodness for the tweezers, because I can't imagine trying to do this with my giant Gumby fingers. My hands would not allow me to get the effect that I was creating with the tweezers. Finally, I used some Kids' Choice glue and added in the leaves. And I think when you added the when I added the leaves to the project, it really finished everything. It tied everything. It gave everything just a bit more movement, and it was perfect. Like, the leaves finished the project perfectly for me. Just a handful more of the little yellow buds. Yeah, I'm using buds for lack of a better word. And we can call my canvas done. Now, I intentionally left the whole of the paintbrush clear because I knew from the beginning that I was going to want to take some silk ribbon and let them dangle from the paintbrush. So in a second, you're going to see me pull out a bunch of ribbons. Now I gotta use all of these yellow flowers. Here we go. Now I'm going to pull out a bunch of ribbons, and I'm going to keep them from fraying and heat set them with some fire. So if you just touch the end of a ribbon with a little bit of fire, it will keep it from fraying more. Old ballet trick. We used to do it to all my point shoe ribbons. That you always heat set your you melted and burned your silk ribbons. Anyway, I do the same thing now with my crafting ribbons to keep them from fraying. I added all the ribbons into the hole. And I didn't want it to be too long, but I wish I'd made it just a smidgen longer because I wasn't able to knot it the way I had originally intended. So to solve the problem, I took just another little piece of pink ribbon and tied it around the base of the ribbons. So that way it had that nice closure that I wanted. It wasn't going to accidentally get pulled out by a small child walking by and grabbing things, because that's what my children do. And I added just a nice little bow, and I kept some, you know what, it worked because the spring feel was there. I heat set the ribbons on my bow, and I added just a little bit of glue inside, under the ribbon, and inside the knot so it wouldn't come undone. And there you go. There's my project today. I hope spring has sprung around you. Let me know in the comments below what's your favorite project to do with flowers. And thanks for peeking in today. Until later, happy crafting.